Hello, everybody. Um, I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks lunchtime streaming show, where we watch old 16mm films, and that was some more of the European travels, 1955. We started off in Norway and made our way to the UK. There was some out of focus material in there, and that's the downer part of film, is that you would shoot it, and if you didn't have a reflex viewfinder where you could actually see through the lens what you're capturing, you would capture stuff that was maybe out of focus, or and you wouldn't know until you got it processed and then it came back like days, weeks, months later, and you'd be like, oh. What's interesting is that you know that this film was edited because they edited in intertitles, and whoever edited it thought it was okay to put out of focus material there, or they were on a little tiny viewer like Rewind, and they couldn't tell that it was really out of focus. So there you go. Anyways, we watch old 16mm films, and behind me, let's see if I can nudge this without causing it to freak out. I have a film on the scanner. It is So You Want to Be on the Team. So we watched a film a couple of weeks ago that was all about the dangers associated with school athletics. It was basically a liability thing, saying like, we're not liable. We showed you this film about what could potentially happen. And so this one might be a similar ilk, as far as something to show kids who want to be on an athletic team. Enjoy.
Man, wouldn't it be cool to be famous and have kids? I'd give mine to any kid that asked me.
The terrific growth of spectator sports in the last few years in America, and the tremendous public support of professional football, basketball, baseball, hockey, and soccer teams have created great new demands for talented athletes. With the growing popularity of professional competition, leagues have expanded, more franchises have opened up, and more teams have been organized. Now, naturally, this has stimulated the search for young fellows who've got what it takes to join the professional athletic ranks. Hi there, I'm Jack Brickhouse, speaking to you from beautiful Wrigley Field. Well, you know, I guess I've seen literally hundreds of wonderful athletes play on this field. And it occurs to me that it just might be helpful to you young fellows who'd like to become professionals to learn how you go about it. How do you get people to ask you for your autograph, huh? How are pros developed? Where do they get their training? How do they get a chance to show what they can do? Well, I figure the best way to go about it is to ask the pros themselves. This is Ferguson Jenkins, the young 20-game winning pitching star of the Chicago Cubs. And this is Randy Hundley, Jenkins' battery mate, senior catcher and player representative of the Cubs. Fergie, what does a youngster have to do who wants to play professional ball?
Well, right now, the main objective, I think, towards the youngsters is to stay in school and get their education. If he does have a God-gifted talent, either in, say, football, basketball, or baseball, all well and good. Stay in school, get your education, and nowadays they have your scholarships and your bursaries that put the younger fellow through school. I think that if a younger fellow can say to himself, I have the talent, wait a few years, get your education, and then when you're through school, if you still think that athletics is your field, go into it. But first of all, get your education.
How important is it to play on a team? How important is teamwork?
Well, without teamwork, a team cannot win. You're as strong as your weakest link, more or less, as people say. In baseball, you have to think as a team and work as a team.
Randy, how important is this element of practice in becoming a professional?
Well, even when I wasn't playing on a little league team, I was playing out in the street or out in the cow pasture, as we say in Virginia. I was trying to play baseball all the time, and whether it's playing with an organized team or not, just play and practice. If you have to go out and throw rocks up and hit them with a bat, I used to do this day after day, or throw a ball up against the wall. Just these things help improve you, and to me it was very important.
Now let's take a look at the grueling game of professional basketball. We know it takes stamina and endurance in addition to quick hands, a quick mind, and a dead eye. In practice workouts, you'd never know they'd been famous college players. They work hard on fundamentals, in skull sessions, on plays, and on teamwork. One of the hardest working players is Bob Boozer, Bulls captain and leading scorer, a former All-American great from Kansas State University. 6 feet 8 inches, 225 pounds. We asked him how he got his basketball experience.
Well, I got started in basketball when I was a small tyke in Omaha, Nebraska, in junior high Y and high Y basketball. And then I went to Tech High in Omaha, and then to Kansas State University in Manhattan, Kansas. Then on into professional ball in 1959.
Well, when did you decide to become a professional athlete?
Well, I never quite really decided. It was when I completed my college education that I was drafted by the professionals, Cincinnati Royals, in 1959. Then I started thinking about a professional career, but up until that time I had not.
Bob, did you prepare for something after your athletic career ends?
Oh yes, I'm in a management training program with one of the biggest companies in the nation now in Omaha, Nebraska. So I'm getting myself prepared for the day when I can no longer run up and down the court. This is so important because, you know, your pro career only lasts, I think, on an average of maybe 5, 6, 7 years. So it's very important to prepare yourself for the days when you can't play any longer.
How important are the books?
You got to hit the books. If you can't pass, you can't play. All college coaches use this. If you can't pass, you have no help with them. No doubt about it.
Football, like basketball, drafts its players almost totally from the ranks of college players who have shown their abilities during their collegiate games. Outstanding performers are simply invited to go pro. One who was very much sought after is Gale Sayers, offensive star of the Chicago Bears. We asked him how he went about becoming a pro.
Well, I got my first team experience in Omaha, Nebraska. We have a midget league in Omaha, and it's for 7th and 8th grade students. And I played in midget ball 2 years. Then I played grade school ball, 7th and 8th grade. Then I moved to Omaha Central High School, where I had my 4 years of schooling there and playing on team activities. Then I was very fortunate to get a lot of scholarship offers. And then I went to the University of Kansas, where I played 4 years there. Then again, I was very fortunate enough to get a pro offer, and I moved to the Chicago Bears.
Gale, what did you major in college, and how did you prepare yourself for the days when you could no longer play football?
Well, I majored in physical education and minored in speech, but at the present time I'm being trained to be a stockbroker, which is completely away from my physical education. But getting back to college, I know that when I first came to college, I thought that all I wanted to do is play football. But I found out during my freshman year that I couldn't concentrate all on football because as I was doing this, I was going down my grades. So my coach in college, Coach Jack Mitchell, he instilled the idea into me that in college, your grades come first and football second. So I started getting my grade, and I think getting better grades made my football ability come up much better also.
When did you decide to become a professional football player?
Well, it's hard to say. I think back in about 1957, 58, well, I had a favorite football team, the Baltimore Colts. I loved to see them play, but I think always in the back of my mind, I wanted to become a professional football player. But right now that I am a professional football player, it seems like a dream because you read about the different stars, John Unitas, the Raymond Berrys, or Sam Huff, but you really never think that you would be able to play against them.
Well, finally, Gail, would you tell us what advice you have for youngsters who want to become professional football players?
Well, I don't like to give advice, but I think the main thing is to be prepared. And this means to be prepared in your schoolwork also, because if you want to be a professional athlete, and if you don't make it, well, you can't fall back on your education. But if you do make it, well, you're going to use a professional athlete as a stepping stone towards your goal, and that's the what you're going to study in school. That's the main thing, to be prepared.
Be prepared. If you don't pass, you can't play. Get your education. College if possible. High school for sure. All the stars agree. No matter how much natural talent you may have, it may not carry you into the ranks of the professionals unless it is discovered. And the best way to get discovered is to play on an organized school team. The training and the preparation you get there for the time when playing days are over also improves your quality as a player. So, if you want to be a professional athlete, don't take it from me. Take it from Fergie, and Randy, and Bob, and Gail. Stay in school. Go out for the team of your choice, but get all the education you can. If you're good enough, you'll be discovered while you're still in school. Naturally, first of all, you have to be a good athlete. Then you have to play on a recognized team. Be a member of a team. Now, to stay on the team, you have to be successful in school. School prepares you for the future after your playing days are over. With talent and determination, you can become a pro. You don't have to be a great star to be on a team, but when you are, we'll probably be asking you for your autograph. Well, that's it for now. I'm Jack Brickhouse saying so long and good luck.
Yeah, look at that. Some names that I've heard. I'm not a sports fan. My parents not sports fans, but some of those. Gail Sayers, yes, that name. But yeah, you know, it's one of those things. It's like, you want to be in sports. Well, sports are great, but get an education, because that's a limited lifespan. So, you know, it's pretty great, and that's late '60s. Things have certainly changed. Let's learn about some birds and their characteristics. Enjoy.
Have you ever dreamed of flying like a bird? When we think of flying, we usually think of wings. Wings are one of the important characteristics of birds. Whether it's a seagull or a pigeon, birds are alike in a number of ways. They all have certain characteristics. Let's examine some of the ways in which birds are alike. Let's look first at the feathers. All birds have feathers, and birds are the only animals that have feathers. Feathers cover most of the bird's body and help give it a smooth, streamlined shape. We'll remove a wing feather from this duck and examine it more closely. The stem-like part at the bottom is called the quill. Above the quill is the vane, the main part of the feather. Under a magnifying glass, we can see the long, thin parts called barbs that make up the vane. Along the edge of each barb are tiny branches called barbules, which hook the barbs together. When a bird uses its beak to comb or preen its feathers, it is usually hooking the tiny barbules, something like this. Besides the large contour feathers, birds have softer feathers called down feathers. On a duck, we can find the heavy undercoat of down feathers. So feathers are one important characteristic of all birds. A second way in which birds are alike is that they have 2 wings and 2 legs. Most birds use their wings to fly, as we saw earlier. But there are some birds, such as the ostrich, that don't fly. Ostriches have long, strong legs and can run as fast as some birds fly. Another bird that does not fly is the penguin. Penguins walk upright on their 2 legs. The 2 wings are almost like the flippers of a seal, very good for swimming underwater. Like all birds, penguins have 2 legs and 2 wings. Let's remember that most birds use their 2 wings to fly. Here in slow motion, we can see how the pigeon's wings work and how the wings and tail together control the flight. These geese are flying with a steady beat of their powerful wings. Most birds can also glide, as these geese are doing. Notice how the wings are also used to slow the birds down. A bird's wings are moved by large muscles in the breast. The muscles are attached to the breastbone. In the skeleton of a pigeon, we can see the large breastbone. A bird's skeleton is strong and light, well suited to flying. Many of the bones, such as the wing bones, are hollow. This makes them light, but they're still very strong. The bones of the 2 wings and 2 legs can be seen clearly in the skeleton. A third way birds are alike is that they are warm-blooded. You can sometimes feel the warmth of a bird's body with your hands. Human beings and other mammals are also warm-blooded. You know that you have a normal body temperature of a little less than 100 degrees. To maintain this body temperature, your heart beats at a certain rate, about like this. Birds have a higher body temperature that varies between 102 and 112 degrees. To maintain this temperature, a bird has a faster heartbeat, like this. Because birds are warm-blooded, they are able to hatch their eggs with the warmth of their bodies. After hatching, most baby birds are cared for by the parents and kept warm. Being warm-blooded is an important characteristic of birds. Birds are alike in a fourth important way. They have a bill or beak, but no teeth. They do not chew their food, but use their bills in other ways. The peacock has a stout, heavy beak, well suited to eating large grain seeds. The long, sharp bill of the woodpecker is used to dig out insects found in trees. The beak of the hummingbird is very long and slender. It is used to sip nectar from flowers. Hawks and other birds of prey have sharp, hooked beaks, which are well suited to tearing meat, which is the hawk's food. The duck uses its broad, spoon-like beak as a kind of strainer. The food is kept in the beak while the water drains out through the sides. The crane, like other wading birds, has a long bill that can be used for probing in shallow water to catch fish and other small animals. So, beaks and no teeth are a fourth important characteristic of birds. Just as there are differences in the beaks of birds, there are differences in their feet. The feet of the pigeon and many other birds have 3 toes in front and 1 in back. Notice how the feet can grip a perch. Parakeets, parrots, and other related birds have feet with 2 toes in front and 2 in back, which help the bird to climb. The peacock and many other domestic fowl have large, sturdy feet, suitable for walking and also for scratching in the dirt when the bird searches for food. The webbed feet of a duck are used as paddles in the water. Although we've seen ways in which birds differ, let's remember the ways in which they are alike. We'll try to remember 4 important characteristics of birds. All birds have feathers, and birds are the only animals with feathers. We can remember that birds have 2 wings and 2 legs. A bird's strong, light skeleton is well suited for flying, although we saw that not all birds fly. A third characteristic is that birds are warm-blooded. Birds have a high body temperature and a fast heartbeat. A fourth characteristic is that birds have bills or beaks, but no teeth. As we study more about birds, we'll learn more about the characteristics that help us to understand these interesting animals, birds.
Interesting. Yeah, we've shown a lot of films about birds over the years, and supposedly I haven't shown that one in the past, but I'm sure there's overlap with other ones that we've shown. So behind me, I have another, behind me, over there, I have a film scanner, and we have another film set up. Let me say, Burrow Owl, thank you for donating via the Super Thanks button. That's a great way to support us. Also, hitting thumbs up and like. This is, so just like there were films about birds in the 50s and 60s, a lot of films about birds, there's a lot of films about stress in the 80s. And that's what this next film is. Stress, Distress. Enjoy.
Mr. Smith, please.
Mr. Smith is on another line. Do you want to hold?
All right.
Stress is part of life. Your body responds to stress with a variety of chemical reactions, which in turn produce physical and mental changes. Some stress is good for you. It may lead to achievements in your studies, careers, social life, and in sports. Both animals and people are well equipped to deal with stress alarm situations. They make it possible for us to cope with both low and high risk incidents. But frequently, stress translates itself into distress and impairs our health. It's estimated that 50 to 80% of sickness can be attributed to stress. Disease and medical expenses could be cut drastically if we learned how to deal more effectively with this problem. Different people react differently to the same stress triggers. There are the highly tense and driven type A personalities, such as Bob, who run a greater risk of stress-related disease than the more easygoing type B personalities. Bob arrived at his office fit to be tied, but with a little bit of preparation, Bob could learn how to better cope with the stressors that lay in wait for him, as they do for all of us. Bob could have gotten up a little earlier and avoided the stress of worrying about arriving at his office too late. And why get furious about bad drivers? Things like that happen all the time. Bob instead could take pride in his fast reactions.
Climb to 78. There's no rain in your future today.
This is certainly an obnoxious thing to do. But why get aggravated, stressed? It isn't worth it. Wouldn't it be much easier to find another space? Missing an elevator isn't really a big deal. It will come back. No use getting angry, stressed. It won't do any good.
Sorry to keep you waiting so long, Bob. I had the boss on the line from New York.
No problem. Gave me time to look over the sports section.
Did your team win?
Just by learning to take daily tensions in stride, Bob starts his day happy, relaxed, and contented, rather than full of rage and frustration. Unfortunately, there are tragic events in all of our lives that cannot be prevented and which cause extreme stress. The death of a member of the family or of a good friend, the loss of a pet, breaking off a relationship, getting a divorce, losing your job, problems in school. Other forms of stress are caused by our environment, air pollution, overcrowding, noise pollution. So there are two sorts of stress triggers, those that we can head off at the pass, and those which are beyond our control, or over which we have little control. There's another type of stress, the most futile of all, that we create for ourselves, worrying about things that may happen, but never do. All of us are guilty of it in greater or lesser degree. Your girlfriend is late for a date. What happened? Did she have an accident? Did she find another guy? Did she get sick?
You won't believe it. My watch stopped. I'm sorry I'm late. I brought you a present.
Bob was anxious and upset. His imagination conjured up all sorts of things that could have happened. Nothing did. Stress is what's happening to you, or what you think is happening to you. The study of stress and the prevention of stress-produced disease is one of the targets of modern medicine. Many major medical centers and health maintenance organizations operate special departments for research, diagnosis, and treatment of stress. Among typical stress-related ailments are headaches, high blood pressure, ulcers, arthritis, even cancer. The interplay of mental stress and health was instinctively recognized a long time ago. Stress-related words became a part of our daily vocabulary. Someone gets cold feet. Fear makes blood recede from the surface of the body. A sigh of relief refers to heavier breathing after a tense situation. Being tense, being under pressure. Hot with rage, an infuriating event causes the blood to surge into our face. Trembling with fear. It took my breath away. A nervous stomach. In every case, experiences of the mind translate themselves into conditions of our body. Stress is not always bad. Sometimes it's necessary to exist. Animals and primitive humans survive by fight or flight. Confronted with sudden danger, the stress apparatus helps us to turn and face the music, or to rush up a tree for safety. In today's society, the fight or flight response is not, or should not be, the appropriate reaction to threatening events. And that causes a problem. Automatic reactions that occur in our body to give us strength for fighting or fleeing are now not used up by productive physical activity.
It's all wrong.
They can produce harmful reactions to our system. When stress becomes distress, it can make us sick. But stress is the body's reaction to any demand placed on it, both unpleasant and pleasant. Embracing your sweetheart causes stress. Your body responds by increasing the heartbeat and breathing. Vacation, travel, holidays, promotions create positive stress. Fortunately, positive stress places fewer demands on your body than negative stress. Stress can be caused by a momentary shocking experience. Some people die of fright. Stress can be a long-range condition, such as unhappiness in school or on a job. Hard work and long hours are stressful. Positive stress, when you enjoy what you're doing. Negative stress, if you hate it. Different sources of stress can add up to an ever-increasing grand total of stress points. They can lead to the last straw that breaks the camel's back and cause a physical and/or a mental breakdown. Most of us are well equipped to cope with all sorts of stress and distress, but different persons have different thresholds of stress, the point when stress becomes a disease. Fortunately, we're beginning to better understand the nature of stress. Dr. Hans Selye, one of Canada's most honored scientists, has dedicated most of his career to this field. His book, The Stress of Life, which was published in 1956, is the cornerstone for most stress research. Studies now make it possible to measure how stressful a particular event will be for most people. Researchers developed a scale giving a point score to many important events. Family and social events score high on this scale. These are just a few examples. The study showed that stress is caused by both happy and unhappy events. Stress points from different incidents add up. The higher the score, the greater the probability of a stress-related disease. The more changes in your life, the more stress. Severe stress lowers our body's defenses against disease. Distressing thoughts can cause as much stress as distressing events. The damage caused by stress may be recognized months or even years after the events. This is known as the delayed stress syndrome. The branch of medicine that deals with the interrelationship of stress and subsequent physical disease is called psychosomatics. Psycho, pertaining to the mind; somatic, pertaining to the body. The impact of stress is often diagnosed by a physical examination. The patient may have migraine headaches, back pains, stomach or intestinal disorders that do not seem to relate to a physical source. But in some situations, stress can be handled before it scores against you. For example, before an exam at school, a job interview, talking before a group. All events that add a number of points to the stress scale. Sometimes tension can be reduced by simple procedures. Some take just a few seconds. Inhale slowly and very deeply. Relax your jaws. Hold your breath for a little while. Think of something pleasant, like a beautiful sunset. Then exhale slowly and let your anxiety flow out of your body with your breath. There is a connection between nutrition and stress. Dr. Arnold Fox is an expert in this field.
The way we eat, especially what we eat, determines whether we will be stressed or not. And overeating is very, very stressful. I tell my patients that they must stop eating the SAD diet. That's the standard American diet. It's very, very high in fat and refined carbohydrates. And refined carbohydrates are substances which are made of sugar and white flour, largely. When we take in such a SAD diet, our blood sugars go way, way up. Our body puts out insulin and all other kinds of hormones and drives the blood sugar down. And pretty soon the adrenals are involved, all the other glands are involved, and we're involved with a fight or flight reaction, as if we were angry, only the body doesn't know that. Furthermore, the high fat content in the blood coats the red blood cells and interferes with oxygen going to the cells. No wonder we're tired. I tell my patients to get off the SAD diet, get onto the Better Health medical diet. And remember, there are certain things you can do immediately to unstress yourself with diet. Remember, try to avoid CATS, C-A-T-S, from San Francisco, SF. And what are they? Well, they're the stressors. Caffeine, alcohol, tobacco, sugar, salt, and fat. Remember, avoid CATS from San Francisco and help yourself immediately to lead a stress-free life.
And so it works two ways. Our mind affects our body, and the way we treat our body affects our mind. Question: how does one recognize that stress is reaching a harmful stage? It's not easy, but there are warning signals. Some are unusual restlessness, becoming absent-minded, depression, headaches, tightness of the jaw, sweaty palms, irritability, stomach trouble, forgetting things, lower back pains, trouble falling asleep. What to do if you suspect that stress is getting the better of you? First, you may try some homegrown remedies. For example, just talking about your problems to a good friend or close member of the family. Getting things off your chest can release tension. Don't keep things bottled up inside you. Another excellent remedy is exercise. Some of you may have experienced complete relaxation after jogging or another physical activity. It's a good way to get things out of your system. Sports, especially competitive sports, are also stress triggers, but physical activity shows up well on the stress balance sheet. There's an explanation for this. Our body needs physical activity. For millions of years, prehistoric humans led an existence gathering food, fighting, fleeing saber-toothed tigers, wandering. Then, in a split second of history, many of us changed to a life behind a desk or behind the wheel. There's a continuous buildup of unreleased response, and some chemicals in our body do not find their proper use. Possible consequence: mental problems, stress, disease. Exercise releases this tension. Just keeping busy in a pleasant way at home, at school, or on your job is another way of de-stressing. It keeps your mind off problems that may produce stress. Pets can be helpful. They relax their owners. Getting enough rest and sleep. Lack of sleep can lessen your ability to counteract stress. It can make you more irritable. The average person needs 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Many people turn to alcohol to relieve stress. One glass of wine at dinner may not do any harm. As a matter of fact, it may help. But excessive drinking of alcohol increases stress. Drugs that relax, tranquilizers, should not be taken unless prescribed by your doctor. Non-authorized use or overuse can be damaging to your health and cause more stress than you started out with. Smoking may seem to relax you, In some instances, it probably does. But again, the damage to your lungs and circulatory system produces great stress that can come back to haunt you. So it seems you can't win. Well, maybe you can. Within the last years, new methods of stress management were developed by medical centers all over the country. Research shows great promise and success. Your doctor may be able to suggest practitioners who specialize in this field. One of them is Dr. Stephen Kiebrick, who is the director of the Stress Management Service of the Kaiser Permanente Medical Center in Los Angeles. He has treated several hundred patients with stress-related disorders.
Both at Kaiser and here at my private clinic, we offer a variety of psychological approaches to the treatment of stress-related disorders. All of these are basically self-control approaches, training people in new ways to cope with the excessive stress in their lives. All of these techniques are safe and can be learned by anyone with enough interest to practice regularly about half an hour a day. Unlike drugs, they have no side effects from prolonged use, but instead actually become more effective the more you use them. Here are 3 ways you can learn to better manage your reactions to excessive stress: relaxation through meditation, self-hypnosis, and biofeedback. First, you can learn to produce a state of deep relaxation by regular practice with various types of meditative-like exercises. Some of these involve actual practice with your muscles, while others you merely rest quietly and focus your thoughts in specific ways. In our program, people are trained how to produce a state of deep relaxation in all of their muscles. They then practice at home with a recorded tape of the instructions they received in the group. Another approach involves learning a more specific set of mental exercises, a form of self-hypnosis. Using this technique, you practice repeating a set of specific phrases to yourself, directed towards controlling the body system that is overreacting to stress. People can learn, using this method, to lower their blood pressure, slow their heart rate, calm other runaway responses in the body. A third technique, biofeedback, involves the use of electronic instrumentation, which monitor different body systems and shows the individual what is going on in various systems inside his body at that moment. When people can see or hear exactly how their bodies are responding, they can learn to control various stress reactions much more quickly. 2 systems used frequently in treating stress-related problems measure changes in surface skin temperature and the level of tension in various muscles. By watching the instruments and listening to the sounds, you get extra information about how your body is responding. With this extra knowledge, you can learn more quickly how to control your internal reactions to stress. Once you learn this skill, you don't need the equipment anymore. Just regular practice once or twice a week maintains your control.
The more we learn about stress, the better we'll be able to cope with difficult situations. Our mind impacts our health. We have to use it, not to harm, but to heal and to stay well.
the Handle Film Corporation has such a great logo. Big fan of that logo. The H with the perfs, and then it's the thing that goes across is a frame line. So good. So good. Let's see. What do I want to watch? This will run a little long, but is there life on Mars? I think there's a song about it.
In the distant past, it may have begun like this for a very young planet called Mars. It was an age of volcanic activity. With volcanoes came their gases, including water vapor. These gases condensed and formed rain. In its beginning, it rained for countless years. The rain cooled the planet's surface. The rain eventually formed streams. These cut channels in the planet as the waters flowed over the terrain. The waters continued to grow larger in size. Streams widened. Small streams emptied into larger ones, creating rivers or oceans. This is the past history of Mars as some see it. This is Mars today. The once powerful volcanoes of Mars appear to be extinct or dormant today. Time and erosion have covered their once molten lava with a mantle of dust. Yet volcanoes are still present, and larger than any on Earth. Olympus Mons is the largest known volcano in the solar system. It is 3 times higher than Mount Everest. Mars also has a system of canyons. The U-shaped walls indicate that rock slides and avalanches have helped shape them. 4 times deeper than the Grand Canyon, these canyons might be 150 miles wide. They may extend over a distance of 2,000 miles. What forces could have formed these canyons, and when? And what about the water that once apparently filled these eroded channels? Once these may have been rivers or tributaries. Today the water is gone, leaving behind dried up riverbeds. What happened to the water? When did it disappear? And what removed it? The water that may still exist on Mars is probably located in part at the poles, existing as polar ice or frost. It is joined there by frozen carbon dioxide in temperatures of minus 190 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the coldest place on the surface of Mars. Although water appears to be frozen in the ice caps, and although it may exist in the crust as permafrost, there is relatively little water on Mars. Mostly, this is a planet covered with dust, and the dust is moved by winds. Usually, the Martian dust storms last only a few days, but they carry dust up to speeds of 250 to 300 miles per hour. The dust storms have apparently contributed to much of the erosion that has taken place on Mars. The dust storms have helped shape mountains, volcanoes, and other surface features. At times, the dust has even appeared to have formed dunes. So Mars is not without Earth-like features, although portions of its surface are pitted with impact craters. If Mars is so seemingly desolate, apparently covered with little water or oxygen, what could live here today? And further, how can we determine if life presently exists on Mars? The answers on how to detect Martian life are found aboard the Viking lander that rests on the planet's surface. Its cameras, with their mirrors, show us what is on the planet. Yet they are controlled from the Earth. Certain instruments measure the velocity of the winds and provide information on a variety of surface and subsurface conditions. After traveling 440 million miles for nearly 1 year, one of the most important things this craft must do is to reach into the Martian soil and return a sample to the lander. This would be an easy task on Earth, but on Mars, machines must act as our hands. Returning the soil to the Viking lander is the first step in searching for the answer to a question that can change man's way of thinking. This desolate planet, if it has life, could alter the thought that Earth alone has living creatures upon it. So the journey of the soil back to the lander is one of great importance. Once the material reaches the spacecraft, it is sifted as it falls through an opening into the interior of the lander. some of the material falls into a chamber where it can be tested for the presence of life in a biology experiment. In this chamber, the soil is moistened with a liquid that includes food that Earth microorganisms thrive on. A sample of the Martian atmosphere is pumped into the chamber, and then the weight. If there are microorganisms acting upon the food in the soil, they will give off a gas. The gas will mix with the Martian atmosphere, and when it is analyzed by chemical detectors, it may reveal that life is present. While the first experiment is taking place, some of the soil is also falling into another chamber for a second biology experiment. This time, the soil is also moistened with nutrients, but the nutrients are tagged with radioactive carbon-14. If the organisms are in the soil sample, they will feed on the nutrients and pass the radioactive carbon off with their gases. The gases can later be analyzed by other equipment aboard the lander, and the presence of radioactive carbon will indicate the presence of life. In the third and final biology experiment, a sample of the soil has fallen into a third chamber where it receives a small amount of moisture and an atmosphere of carbon dioxide gas tagged with radioactive carbon-14. Simulated Martian sunlight is introduced, and if plant-like organisms are present in the soil, they will capture the carbon-14. Later, the original carbon-14 gas will be flushed out of the container, and the chamber will be heated to over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. If there is carbon-14 in the soil sample, it will be detected when released in the heating process. This would indicate plant-like organisms existing on Mars. But what life exists on Mars today? Could there be creatures like those that abound on Earth? Exactly what forms of life could exist on Mars? The biology experiments are designed for the very small organisms, partially because of their abundance and their ability to survive environmental extremes. The Martian planet abounds with mysteries, from its volcanoes to its bleak landscape. We know this place only from a great distance. Its secrets are there for us to discover. But if we do not find life on Mars today, it may mean we just looked in the wrong places, or searched with the wrong instruments, or came at the wrong time. But if we do find life on Mars today, it will mean that life on Earth is not an isolated instance, and it will offer further evidence that we are not alone in the universe.
That guy had such an interesting accent, Warder, and it was kind of a weird twang. So Hampton Roads is Virginia, and it's probably near the Langley Space Center, and so we did a lot of work with them, digitized a bunch of film and video for them, like 600 videotapes. And so maybe that's kind of where that's from. They were one of the space centers that their main deal was, I think they tested landing of things, of like lunar landers and things like that in gravity situations. And they were also one of the educational, so they created a lot of educational content for the country. And supposedly there's a bar. There's a bar somewhere on the Space Center campus, which people told me about, but I'd never got to go to. But anyhow, thanks everyone for tuning in today. Very much appreciate your eyeballs. If you like what you saw, you can hit the thumbs up, hit the like button, you can subscribe. Even if you've hit the thumbs up before, just do it again today. How about that? Get us some more numbers for the grand algorithms. But we'll be back again tomorrow on Friday. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and we will see you soon. As always, please rewind. Love each other. And smiley face with eyelashes. We'll see you soon. Bye.